Hi there, welcome to Nighttime Line Talks. The post-pandemic time is not here yet, but everybody is more concerned about international economies, global economies, domestic economies, and the European Union is analyzing a package led by Germany. Angela Merkel, who raised in the divided Germany on the west, on the east side. So she learned some of the education that was focused by Russia on a communist model against the capitalism. And she already is showing up that the models to recover the economy after this pandemic are not going to be accepted on the way of the aggressive capitalism. You know, the globalization on the world, technology, business brought progress, but parallel to it, it also brought a lot of trouble, a lot of confusion in situations. You know, the parity of the money. The European community has as a special tool the Euro plan and is trying to survive. In fact, some of the members of the European community, like Spain, Italy, Greece, they are complaining. They don't like the Euro plan. They prefer go back to peseta and their original monies. They feel that they don't like the bureaucratic control from banks in Brussels and Germany, because they are trying to regulate inflation and the productivity and everything. Parallel to it, United States is trying to make with the dollar the merchandise. Let's go to plan this way. United States elevate credits domestically to survive this pandemic. They authorize trillions and trillions of dollars to help people all over the country. But at the same time, part of this money the banks are managing is going to be in credits that the small and medium-sized and big-sized business are going to use on the recovery plan. So these loans are going to generate interest rates, very juicy interest rates. And the money goes all over the world because the United States is the country of the trademarks. Coca-Cola, Ford, Chrysler, Fiat, that they join forces. Their cars are in Italy as well, in United States, Mexico, etc. So this joining forces business is not coming alone. It's a machinery that is elevating the points on the stock markets, on the franchises, on many of the business we see internationally globalizing and creating more business. As you saw, China has Kentucky Fried Chicken, Japan has Kentucky Fried Chicken, Europe has Kentucky Fried Chicken. When Moscow opens the first McDonald's, everybody was very surprised. Nobody imagined that a communist country like Russia is going to open McDonald's. But now, Russia is more capitalist than the United States. Russians love to do business, love to sell products and manage services all over the world. So this is an unstoppable situation. Okay, I agree, the pandemic slow the world of business. But as soon as countries' borders are open again, the airlines are working again, people is going back to do business. Slow down, but they need to keep trace of what they left pending. And that situation means recover money. Many people lose money on the stock markets, on their businesses, and many things. But they are creating ideas to recover that money. Nobody likes to stay with the crossed arms and says, okay, I lost and goodbye. No. Everybody is expecting from the mentality to say, okay, I lost $10 million. I need to recover $20 million, the double. And accelerate my business in a way to create a contingency plan in case this virus come back on fall. We have enough resources to survive. Even President Trump says that if this virus come back to the United States, he will not close the country again. What he is doing is using the present experiences to make a contingency plan, regional contingency plans that don't fracture the whole world of business, the whole chains of distribution. And the idea is generate and equip all the hospitals with enough respirators and create that vaccine that apparently is working in coming in October. And everybody is optimistic because there is light at the end of the tunnel, and nothing lasts forever. Nothing. So the American government and many governments worldwide are doing the right thing. What happens is Angela Merkel is a nice leader, and I read a lot about her. She's a great friend of Vladimir Putin. Both of them enhance the gas companies in Ukraine, and they are doing a lot of business together. But that don't mean Germany is going to endorse the former Soviet Union or Russia in the new world of business. European community has fragmented economies that are the current states. For example, if Italy and Greece experience economic problems, that don't mean or reflect that the whole European community is in trouble. For example, British government, since the beginning, they don't like to exchange their pound for euros. They kept the pound because they know that use a new currency in the United Kingdom was risky. So they were very conservative and they kept the pound. And now, after the Brexit, they are optimistic. They don't need to do big changes because they are like they were at the beginning. The only situation they have, and it's sad to say, is a lot of migrants from Spain, from other Arabian countries, from India, from many countries. But many people move from Italy or Spain to work in London, for example. And that is one of the targets to fix in the next coming months in case everything is consolidated or fully executed on the parliament. So England is going to fix at their own way. But let's go to see what is the domino effect on the economy of the European Union, because it's obvious that if England don't use euros on their economy, but they have euros. The pound has currency exchange systems that they have to support because they were part, or they are still part of the European community. The way they are releasing it, I believe they are going to do very slow to don't affect the oil markets. Also, England is very powerful on the oil markets, especially now that gasoline and the oil prices drop tremendously and they are in the prosperous way to recovery. And it is going to be very polemic and very special way to manage that recovery. Only the experts on the oil market are putting together a group of analysis, not only from the Arab Emirates and the producing countries, the leaders of oil producing. No, they are also involving the economies of foreign markets, foreign banks, because everyone is going to put their own part on the recovery to don't have an impact. You know, when happens a car accident, sometimes two cars crash, but there are business or cars around that are affected by that impact because a fender or a bumper jumps beside the cars and crash the windshield of the car beside, wherever. That is the impact the oil markets are going to overview very carefully, instead to make aggressive changes right away that could represent a mistake. And you know, the Queen of England is one of the main owners of the oil market. British Petroleum is leading those markets. And many situations are involved. Don't feel strange when you see the new alternative energy services are boycotted in the near future. Well, it's because the oil market wants to recover in the way back to prosperity. Because make no sense that many countries have to sell gasoline in a prices that cost more money, storage oil, than the price they pay for processing. Is something unacceptable, but is real. And it's still happening. I just pumped gas the day before yesterday and the price is $1.64 a gallon. And there is still a big promotion with discounts if you use your bonus card, whatever, your points with the credit card or whatever. Everything is coming back in a different way. And at the time we find apparently everything back to normal, we are still going to feel like if we awake from a nightmare. In many situations, Starbucks, I just drove around. Starbucks is open and it's empty for days and days. Nobody likes to spend $5 to $6, $7 in a cup of coffee anymore. With $7, you buy a pack of coffee and you make your own coffee at home. And you can have not one cup. You can have 10 cups and share with your family. And that are the situations Americans and many people all over the world are analyzing. Everything was overpriced. From the sports professionals, they were overpriced tremendously. The marketing on the sports, any sport you want to practice, soccer, American football, ice hockey, basketball, all those players are overpaid by millions and millions of dollars. And people overpay on the price of tickets, on the price of souvenirs. Everything was very expensive. And right now with this situation, people is stopping and finding out that we were overspending and are living in a bubble that make us feel we are rich and we have a very prosperous life that allowed us to live in a nice house, have a great car, have a lot of hobbies, a lot of entertainment, life and trips. But at the end of the day, after this pandemic, everybody is thinking in opposite way. Opposite way that is targeting that we could not back in some cases to that life we used to have. Many people is thinking that this challenge is aggressively influential to make us feel that many of us should not back to work under the same benefits, the same work environment. As you've seen, many companies are announcing that their employees that were telecommuting, working from home, are not going back to the office. And what is happening? Office buildings, rents, or loans or whatever are going to change a lot, and people is going to be affected. The real estate market is going to be tremendously affected on this matter. In many cases, are going to suffer difficulties. But there are companies that are going to be leading the world of business. Pharmaceuticals, hospitals, first care. For example, everybody is talking about and it makes sense because baby boomers are the largest generation with more retired people in the United States. And those baby boomers generate a lot of jobs on the nursery houses where the old people goes to retire. But everybody find out after this pandemic that the service is very poor. The service become very questioned by authorities. And the people that was most affected by this virus was the people living in nursing houses. And it's a domino effect that is affecting everyone. So we are going to see a lot of challenge in the near future by many influential markets, many situations domestically and international. And politicians are targeting the mistakes, not of President Trump, from this pandemic that we weren't prepared to manage. Because it's true, was not country in the world that has the tools to face this situation. None. Even China China was also affected and is out of trace. And they don't like Jinping, the President Jinping don't like to answer questions to, for example, Australia and New Zealand has wonderful researchers in pandemics and infectology, and China don't like to contribute with them to solve some questions on this regard. And guess what China authorities say? Well, we will stop our tourists and students that are planning to go to Australia and New Zealand. We are going to ask them, don't go there to spend their money, go to another country. If you are pushing with such questions that make sense. President Trump also is questioning, because the doctors that advise about this pandemic in China disappear from the eyes of the world. Nobody knows where they are. They disappear, basically. So there are many questions on the air, and China is not answering. Chinese government is hiding many things on this regard. But the most sad situation is that the cooperation from business, I told you many times, 40 years ago, when the attacks of the Tiananmen Square in China, where the repressor communist Chinese government attacks their population, students and workers, Bill Clinton declares China like the most privileged country to do business. And United States send companies to manufacture products there. Hewlett Packard, Apple, phone companies, Nokia, many companies invest in China, and they grow. They have a lot of revenue. And what happens? Now China is turning their back to United States, to European community, and many countries involved accidentally on this pandemic and want to receive an answer to make possible a medical treatment that help us to avoid a situation like it. But Chinese government is not helping. Chinese government is not doing anything on this regard. So everybody is expecting from China an apology, an answer. No, they hired a public relations firm to convince Hong Kong that the laws they are trying to apply there are acceptable. But it's the same repression. And people from Hong Kong that they belong for many times and long years to the Occidental world, to the free world of business, because Hong Kong depends or was a colony from England many years. And when they back to China was the worst mistake. They can do it. So even China is pushing to have Hong Kong back. The people don't like it. The people don't accept. They don't agree with the Chinese repression, the Chinese government. China is manipulating the world. And if the rest of the countries, well, excuse Russia, excuse North Korea, because they are going to support China. But the rest of the countries, if they don't know how to manage this crisis, Chinese government can elevate their situation. Just keep in mind, Chinese companies manufacture almost 98% of chemicals or components to make all the medications United States pharmaceuticals consume. They make peripherals and computer chips and devices that the world of technology use all over the world. Airplanes, computers, etc., etc. China quit from manufacture t-shirts and underwears. That business are going to other countries, small countries, Taiwan, India, wherever. And China focus on the strategic business. They start to produce, to make computer chips, airplane parts that they are manipulating, and the commercial world says, oh, I need China. Wherever it happens, I need those components to make airplanes, to make medications, to make business, to keep growing the world of business everywhere. And China knows very smartly that they will not quit from doing that, because the choices they manipulate are imperative on any situation the world of business is functioning. And not only in the globalization of technology, medicine, also in the banks system. For example, I met a good friend, John Sapp, in one flight from Atlanta to Tokyo, Japan. John Sapp, who retires from the Pentagon after September 11, was hired as a supervisor for international business machines. And we spent several shares of red wine on the flight talking about it. And he was one of the developers of a system to make live transactions on automated teller machines, ATMs, on Chinese and Japan banks that gives you live currencies. That means that if you go with your bank card in Japan and you need Chinese currency, the exchange is precisely accurate according to that time of the day. Or vice versa, if I go with my ATM machine to China and I need yens, Japanese yens, I can have the accurate exchange rate without any problem. And that system was completed and developed in 2006. Now, with the electronic encrypted money, more situations are coming on. And one of the ways China and Russia are pushing the world is to change to the use of encrypted money. Why? Because they like to take apart the dollar currency from the world of business, what is very risky for Americans' economy. Risky and dangerous. Because imagine when China and Russia from servers, computer servers, control the currency of the world. Is an imaginary money that have not support from gold, from dollars, from etc. And that is what Putin and President of China are pushing to do after this pandemic situation. And many bankers are afraid of it. President Trump don't mention these topics. But after the sanctions imposed to China, on the Trump administration, Vladimir Putin says very clear that these sanctions don't affect his economy. They work harder to produce more in every field of productivity. And they learned the lesson, and they are providing their domestic consumption with their own products. So the boycott to sell to China American products, pork, meat, beans, soybeans, etc., brought more problems to American farmers because Bolsonaro's Brazilian president Bolsonaro, that called himself a good and loyal friend of Donald Trump, make a commercial agreement to sell all those products to China. But the distribution fails. So something is going to happen after this pandemic. But the United States of America still needs our support. We love this country, and imagine without United States, regionally, Latin America and Canada will be in very big danger, not only on the economic and military, now in the new way to attack countries with bacteriological intruders. Thank you for your attention. I told to you tonight. Have a great day, and Lord bless the world, Lord bless America, and Lord bless everyone. Thank you.